Hello, and thank you so much for spending some time with me today in regards to wrapping up an MVP. Now, why in the world are we having a streamcast in regards to wrapping up an MVP for a hackathon? Well, it's just that. During a hackathon, you're probably working on a project. You're either a developer, maybe you're a designer, maybe you're one of the business folks behind the project. Ultimately, you're working as a team to derive a solution that's solving some sort of problem derived from an idea that you had when you entered the hackathon. We're going to talk about that story right there, right? Like, what is the whole journey of completing your MVP, and how do you get to the point to submit your project with confidence to the hackathon in an effort to hopefully win or gain access to funding? So we're going to talk about that today. Let me go ahead and share my screen. If you have any questions, feel free. I know this is a low audience, and it's meant to be because we're going to reference to this streamcast with all the hackathon participants. Okay, I am hopefully, let me change my view. So sorry there. I'm going to go into presenter view, redo the screen. Love doing this all by myself here. Yes. All right. Cool. Now I get to talk to myself and go over this experience with you, which I'm thrilled to do. Let's do it. All right. Wrapping up the hackathon, it really starts about the MVP, right? Like, what is it? Let's just start right there. What is an MVP? Well, it's a minimal viable product. Most folks that are in a hackathon that might have experienced a hackathon before are familiar with this, right? But maybe you're somebody that hasn't, but this might have been your first hackathon. You could be nervous. You're not sure how to wrap up your project. You don't even know if your project has a confidence from you and the team to submit it because you got gaps. We're going to talk about those. And let me tell you, right from the start, when you see an MVP, and I have this on the screen right now, it's like the M is minimum. That stands for the most rudimentary, bare bones foundation of a solution possible. That doesn't mean that you're trying to build the full scope of your project. You don't need to hit every touch points in regards to functionality. You have a vision. You know that you want to get into these solution use cases, but now is probably not the right time. Okay, when it comes down to building an MVP, you just want to focus on the bare bone components that's going to get your story across to the people that are viewing your project and the goals for your project. You're sharing your ultimate vision with a form of functionality. Now, some people will say, well, Brandy, isn't that a functional prototype? I would say yes. You know what? A hackathon project is indeed a functional prototype, but also could be what's known as an MVP. And is it both related? Absolutely. It is related. You always start off with some form of prototype. Maybe you did some wireframing. Maybe you did some planning through the project. We all have our different methods for how we derive the overall vision for developing a product that's going to go into an event like a hackathon, like we have now with Make Crypto Mobile for the DeFi for the People initiative. So we know what minimum means. Now, is it viable? Sufficient enough for early adopters. And what that means is, can people utilize this? Is it realistic for them to use this product? Is this potentially a service that's in need, right? And so when you think about those core components, you're trying to make these core components viable for a need. You're solving a problem. And then a product, something tangible customers can touch and feel. That's going to be on the device. That's going to be in the browser. You want to share an experience for folks that are looking into it. Okay, so as you probably know, it all starts with an idea, right? So you have an MVP idea, and this could be the same thing with, a functional prototype. Don't get stuck on the naming convention here. The whole efforts of this is just to help assist you in wrapping up your project, getting ready for submission to the hackathon. So you have this bright idea, and I just wanted to bold this for you. That's why I have the nice yellow background. It's an MVP idea because you should highlight your idea every step of the way. The idea is what got you started in the first place. It's what inspired you to build on this project, to join up with other team members, to develop this vision, to contribute and make an impact in regards to your development cycle. Never lose grasp of what got you here in the first place. So keep that idea always bright in the back of your head as you go through these steps. So what you do with the idea, well, for like the hackathon use case, of course, because we're talking about hackathon and wrapping up MVPs, you need to align that idea to a track. And with our hackathon, we have several tracks. I don't have them all listed here. Matter of fact, if you're wanting to review the track, maybe you want to just double check, and I definitely suggest doing so, and we'll go into that in a later slide. Just go back to the hackathon source where you registered for the hackathon and view the tracks and the rules in that track. We'll touch base on it. But ultimately, the point here is that once when you have your idea, you got your team formed, or maybe you're independent, you started developing your developer sandbox to build out your solution to make an impact, you want to stay focused on the track that you're serving in regards to your use case, and obviously how you're going to connect the idea to the user story, right? So you have the idea, you know your track. Now you want to make sure that you're connecting your MVP to a user story. How did the user gain access to this application that you created, or the use case to the problem that you're solving? You want to think about that story. What type of person, what type of human is going to interact here with the user story? Is it somebody that has deep technical background? They have a background in finance? You want to have multiple user stories, and then you want to help make sure that your team members or yourself understand all these user stories in regards to the use case of the MVP, those minimal components that express the vision of your application. So that way you can excite people, right? Like that's really the purpose of this. And by having alignment with the user story, that's allowing you to make sure that you can be compelling in regards to the deliverables of sharing your project and what your vision is for the project's roadmap moving ahead. So what's the most important aspect? Well, that's obviously developing the core features, right? You want to make sure that you have an understanding of, like, not only do you have an idea clearly defined as a vision for you and the team members, but you want to understand what are those core features. Like I mentioned earlier, this should not include everything under the sun. You're not trying to produce a full featured application. What you're trying to do is produce an application that shares your vision. Once when the user is going through the experience, those core touch points, those core features are usable to express how your product is working and the experience that you're trying to provide. Is it going to be rough around the edges? Yes. Should it be? Of course. Should you have a well-polished user interface? You want to try the best you can, because the user interface is what's going to allow people to know what to do next in your app. And that's another reason why you want to connect to the idea, connect your idea to the user story. So when you think about the user story and you're going through each of your core features, that's when you know you can do a checkbox that the core feature checks itself. And each time that you reiterate on the user story, you're double checking on the core features. This is really, really important. So if you're at this point and it's like the 11th hour, you got 1 hour left to submit, you want to make sure that you're focusing on the core features that's going to express your product's vision, and anything that's not working, now's a good time to start cutting out, right? Trim the fat. You don't want extras in regards to potential confusing features that are not sustainable for the user experience. If a user that you're trying to connect to with your user story, they use and they experience your application's prototype, your MVP prototype, they're testing it out and they're blocked, well, then that's going to give them a bad experience. Now, think of yourself as a judge in a hackathon. You're going to be going through that experience and you're testing what you're hearing as the story for why there's a need for this product. So always make sure that you stay true to your user story. Make sure you have multiple user stories. Test those core features. And if it's the 11th hour and those core features aren't working, now's a good time to start thinking about how you're going to work around that. A couple ideas here. Number one, you don't always have to have fully functional function in place for functionality of your product. You can mock it. All right. Now, should you mock everything? That's up to you to decide. I like to see some features work. I get excited about the technology. I would say you want to share the story about the technology, but ultimately, once when it's the 11th hour, you want to demonstrate if this is a core feature that fills the gap for the user story, it's not functional, go ahead and mock it up. This is a time to just get gritty, make sure that you have it working, nothing is polished. You can pretty much guarantee that after the hackathon, let's say you get funding, let's say you won and you're ready to itenerate on your project, you're most likely going to be tossing a lot of the stuff that you developed here in the wayside because you're going to iterate. And iteration means that you're learning from past experiences, you're building on top of that, and you're making a better user experience for your user with potentially a new code base, new design assets. So it's expected, okay? Over time, these things will get refined. So just always know that it doesn't need to be perfect. And if you can't get it fully working from a technological standpoint, it's okay to generate a mock-up. All right, let's talk about the most important part of getting ready for wrapping up your MVP. You should be already forking the hackathon repo. So please, please, please go to the repository. When you signed up for the hackathon, you were given an initial email that has access to a link for the hackathon repo. Right here on the screen is Celo-org/make-crypto-mobile-hackathon. That's going to get you there. Hopefully we can share a link. Joe, if you're on here, share the link. That would be great. But don't worry, you don't really need the link in this video, because if you participate in a hackathon, you have communications in your inbox. Please review your inbox thread and look at the resources. You want to fork the repo. All you have to do is on the top right-hand side of the repository, select the fork icon. That's it. You don't have to do anything complicated here. It's just simply fork the repo. Cool thing is by forking the repo, one, you press that fork button. Now you have the ability to have the repo forked in your own personal account. You're going to create a new branch, okay? And this is going to be your development sandbox. You might have already made progress, and maybe you haven't even got to this point. You have a code base, you have a prototype, you have something to share in regards to your project submission for the hackathon. So you want to create a branch at this point. You fork the repo, create a branch, and you're going to want to make your changes in that branch. So take all the information that you've built to develop your hackathon project with you and your team members. You want to organize that, put that in a branch, and start committing to the repo. Now, if you don't have experience with fork branches before, don't worry. It's not that complicated. Matter of fact, if you look at the earlier communication, we provided some tips for how you can go ahead and go through this process. If you have any problems, we're on Discord. Feel free to reach out, call it out to me. I'll make sure that you get the access you need to go over the hurdles of working with GitHub. But ultimately, you want to start preparing your repo now, because we're getting near the end. It's the 23rd. The hackathon is going to be closing here soon. So what you need to do, once when you're in there and you're pulling or pushing your commits to your new branch, copy that project name folder that's in the fork branch and copy and paste that in there. You know, whatever you're going to use, command line interface, however your workflow is with GitHub, copy that project name and rename that copy to your project name. Okay, that's really important, because inside that you're going to have a README file where you should be already populating your project details. Okay, those project details, of course, we need to know the name, and then the track. What was the track that you're most interested in? Was it NFTs that excited you the most, and that's the core feature of your project? Put that track in there. Put a description. Hey, the description doesn't need to be a storybook. It just needs to be a description that tells the story of the product and why you're here in the first place. It doesn't need to be exaggerated. It just needs to get the point across of what it is that you're doing. All right. Share some of the team members that are building and their roles. It's really important to share the love. People are committing to the project. They're sharing their time building this. They should be acknowledged for their efforts. And plus that, we like to see who worked on the project. So then you're going to want to organize these files. All right. And then commit and push all the changes, constantly commit and push changes. At this point, you don't actually have anything in regards to a communication to the original repo yet. You're working within your personal repo with a forked version of our hackathon repo. All right, so this is your moment. Just go ahead and organize and start preparing for a submission. And the reason why that this is important is because once it comes to posting to things like your project to DevPost, because DevPost is our main go-to for managing this hackathon, a lot of stuff that DevPost is going to ask you is already going to be done here within the repo. So this is like preparing you to have an efficient submission, both not only for your project and being organized for the MVP project, but also to prepare you for simplifying your experience posting dev posts. You're ready. Like, let's just imagine for a minute you're ready. You're like, your confidence is high. You're all done. The files are great. Your team members are excited. Well, it's now time to submit your pull request. How do you do that? It's pretty simple. GitHub knows the commit history. They know what's going on in your branch. That's why we love GitHub. It connects us developers to work better together in a collaborative environment. The cool thing is that if you head over to the original repository, you'll notice that you'll have a pull request tab, and GitHub should automatically make the suggestion that you can create a pull request from your branch. The nice thing is you can utilize your project name as the pull request. And the cool part about this is it just allows us to identify, and the judges to identify quickly your project. You have the commit history, there's a pull request, it's well documented, and it provides visibility for your project when people are reviewing these things. So it's really in your best benefit to have these clear. It's a project name. Just put that in there and be consistent through your documentation efforts. And within that pull request, not only do you want a product name, but just provide a brief description of what it is. And you remember earlier, I suggested modify the project details. At this point, it should be a copy and paste. There should be no additional work here. In the project details for the README, you should already have the name and description. It's a copy and paste within your pull request. So once the pull request happens and you click that button, that now links up your branch to the master branch for our hackathon. So you're good to go there. At the close of the hackathon, what we're going to do is merge all the projects in to a single repo. And we're going to start organizing this for the judges. So it's really, really important that you follow this process. All right, most important part, project documentation. What does this mean? Let me tell you, for engineers, this means a lot. This can mean the world and the universe surrounding it. Like, my goodness, project documentation, you can really get complex in this. I just want to emphasize here, you have an MVP. You're a participant in a hackathon. You don't have to have everything fully laid out in regards to documentation, but you should have documentation that goes over what the project is, how you utilize the project, how you can rebuild the project yourself. Like, you have the code base. How do I go ahead and get that project started? You want to share as much tips to reduce the friction for people to look into your project. That's the point of project documentation at this stage. It's really about accelerating the visibility for people to check into your project and understand what your project is doing, the underpinnings of how the solution works, and any assistance that you can provide the users that are reviewing this. For instance, the judges. All right, make sure that you have good sound documentation for your use case with the project you're working on. All right, what's next? Well, now that you have the documentation, right, good time to start doing a demo video recording. Now, for Make Crypto Mobile, naturally, that's going to be a mobile phone. So a couple ways you can do this. There's simulators you can do within Chrome. You have the ability to right click and go to inspect and view source. And then you have the ability to simulate a mobile interface. That's one way. Do a screen recording of that, create a 3-minute video. Another way is to download a screen recording app on your mobile phone. And a third way is to simply connect up with some type of tooling like Chrome Inspector tools to wirelessly link to your mobile device so you can control your mobile device. There's so many different ways. If you need any help at all in regards to some ways to efficiently record your demo, ping Devrel in the hackathon support within Discord. We'll gladly help you out. All right. So this shouldn't be too complicated. It's just literally going to show the story of one of your user stories. I mentioned that earlier. Pick a user story that's most impactful for your product vision and show it working on the demonstration. It's fantastic because if you had it mocked up, the video, nobody would be able to know. To them, the end user, they see the video, they're like getting all excited, like, oh my goodness, this is such a cool solution to a problem. And that's exactly what you want with your product demos, like to inspire folks about how cool this project is. All right. Now, you got your documentations and all organized. You have your repo ready to go. It's the merge request has happened with the pull request. Sorry. So now you need to get to the next stage, and that's like verify submission requirements. Why is this important? Well, last thing you want to do is go through all this work and then find out you might have missed one of the key requirements for the hackathon. I would hate to have anybody here lose out on an opportunity after you invested so much time into your project. So please go to your source for the hackathon. Most of you, it's going to be DevPost. Various regions have their support. You would want to go to your region lead, but just make sure that you understand all the requirements and you're checking their boxes. A lot of stuff here I've talked about is kind of at the higher level. I just want to motivate you to start wrapping up your project. Doesn't need to be perfect, but you do want to get your story across. At this point, now that you have all your assets organized, verify the requirements by going to your source of truth for the hackathons. In my example, that's going to be DevPost. Okay, DevPost looks like this. You're getting ready for submitting your project. You've already went on to DevPost. You've already started with the management of your team, the project overview. You have the project details, very similar to the GitHub. So if those aren't populated here, copy and paste from the project work that you did for your README file within your pull request. All that stuff comes in here, and it will streamline the experience and also provide consistency between what you have in GitHub and what you have here for your project submission within DevPost. Now, all the roles are clearly defined. If you notice, you can click right on roles. You can find out the roles. You can find out the tracks, the information about those tracks. All that stuff is visible there. If you have any questions, we're here to help you out. Feel free. Ping us on Discord. Let us know that you need some assistance, and we'll collaborate with you. Terms and conditions, you got to check the checkbox that you understood those in the first place. So I'm kind of just reiterating what's already there. I just want you to know, basically, that we're here to support you. We do have the holiday season approaching in the United States. We got Thanksgiving, so there might be some latency, but I'll be on the lookout. I know a lot of my team members are going to be there on the lookout to support you. Plus that we have a community, right? You don't necessarily just need to have somebody from like developer relations assist you. The community is fantastic in helping one another. Matter of fact, I love it when I see the community support one another. That is so cool. So with that said, this is pretty much it, right? You're wrapping up your MVP. I can go into the logistics of what an MVP is. We can go through the brainstorming. No. That's not what this video is all about. It's about wrapping up your project, and it's time to start getting prepared because the hackathon is nearing the end, and I want you to be as successful as possible. So please start working on wrapping up your project. Start going through the forking process. If you have any problems with GitHub, ping us. We'll happily address it. You should have several communications from us within your email. Feel free to respond to those emails. You have so many options here for support. We're here for you. And I just want to wish you all a fantastic holiday season if you're having some holiday and you're celebrating. Also, congratulations, you made it this far. Right? Job well done. I'm really excited to see all your projects. I'm looking forward to seeing the stories come out in regards to the experiences and those lessons learned. We're lifelong learners here. We know that we can't be perfect. So if anything, this isn't the one for all moment for your project. This is just one opportunity. If you didn't get the results that you were anticipating, the real results is in the experience of working on your project and getting people excited, iterating on your story. Every time that you go ahead and communicate with your community about your project, because of this experience, you're going to be doing better. So it's compounding knowledge over time. This ultimately is an investment in yourself and your team members and the community that you love. So I'm looking forward to it. Really super good job. The projects I've seen come through, loving what you folks are doing out there. I just want to say thank you very much. This is a very short screencast. It's really just the goal to motivate you to start buttoning up your project, start thinking about that user experience. And if you got too much complications, might be good time to start thinking about trimming out some of the complications to simplify your project so you can obtain deliverables to submit for the hackathon. All right. Wishing you all good luck. And that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much. If there's any questions, I'll answer a question. Otherwise, you can hit me up on Discord. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining today. Thank you.